Hey friends, my name is Portia Blanchard. I am the mom of 7 kids, 12 and under, and today I'm going to be talking about traveling with your little ones. Now that seems like a super formal introduction. I just want this to be like 2 friends talking together about the next trip that we have coming up. And in fact, I was messaging a friend about my recent flight just earlier this morning, and my husband's like, you need to post a video. Like, I'm always learning from what others share online, and he's like, you got to post your own video too. So this is me sharing my hopeful tips with traveling with little ones, some things that worked really well with my last flight, and some things that did not work as well as I was hoping. If this is something that's hopeful for you, then go ahead and subscribe and put in the comments what trip you have coming up next. Either a tip that worked for your last trip or something that didn't work for your last trip. So let's go ahead and get started with my flight. So my sister reached out to me, my younger sister, and she said that she was gonna be having a baby and she was inviting me to come out for the birth. She's like, I know it's probably unrealistic for you to make your way out here, but if you could, I'd love it. And without any hesitations, I'm like, of course I will be there. We'll totally figure out a way. I'm coming. I wanted to be there for the birth. Like, how often does that happen? That's so special. So I said yes. And then as I hung up the phone, I'm like, okay, my 4 older kids are going to be in school, so we can figure out that situation, the at-home situation for when they're out of school. And I'll be traveling with 3 babies, essentially. 3 kids, ages 4, 2, and 1. Okay, how am I gonna make this work? So we figured out the stuff for at home, and then it came down to figuring out the flight. Let me just kind of start off with saying some of the worries that I had first with flying, because maybe it's similar to you. I travel a lot, okay? We have family that lives on the other side of the country, and I am we go back and visit a lot, but most of the time we'll either road trip it out there, or I'll just take one child with me, typically the baby, when I fly back and visit. So this was my first time flying by myself with 3 little ones. And the first worry that I had was losing one of them. I think that's a common worry. I remember when we had 1 child, we were doing family pictures with the extended family, and this stranger came up to us and she's like, is this your son? My son, during family pictures, had wandered off into the parking lot. It's super easy with little ones to just think that someone else is taking care of them in that moment, and then you realize that no one was. That's how the situation worked out with family pictures. But for the airport, there's lots of things that you're doing. You're taking off your shoes as you are going through the security checkpoints, and you're getting your tickets figured out and putting your bags up there. Just lots of things that you're doing in the airport. So my first worry was losing them. And pretty much everything else was just a subcategory. So let's start with that. First one is keeping track of your kids. So something that I did for me that really helped ease my mind is I put my kids into matching outfits. So I literally went to Old Navy and found 3 pink dresses that were identical. I figured no one else was gonna have their kids in dresses at the airport. And then they were wearing gray tights so they couldn't take their socks off, and then their boots. That helped me because I knew that if a child had wandered off and I need to be asking an official for help trying to find them, which you never want to think you have to go there, but just to help me feel better, I knew that if one of my kids wandered off, I could literally be like, she is wearing this, and have it be the exact same outfit that my other kids were in. But also, I want it to be where if a child was just kind of wandering around where I was at, but wasn't right next to me, that other people could see that they were obviously in my group. You hear people that go to Disney and they wear like the exact same matching outfits for Disney. And that's what I wanted for the airport. So if I can be super tech savvy, I'll put in pictures and videos of what they look like, but all my kids were in matching outfits. And then I was in a pink hoodie and some leggings and tennis shoes. So my pink matched their pink, but I was in something super comfy that I could walk or run in or bend over and pick up the kids and feel totally comfortable. So that's my first tip, is wear something that's matching. Okay, the second tip I have was for luggage. So if you are packing, if you're needing to pack light, here's a little, let's say if you're needing to pack more economy. So some flights you can get up to 2 checked bags per person, and that's awesome. Other places that you fly, you need to pay for each checked bag. And I knew that I wanted to have my bags checked, and I didn't want to have to be carrying around extra bags while I was trying to also take care of my children. So, but I was flying the route where you had to pay for each checked bag. So this is what I did. If you're able to go, or if you choose to go with a flight where you can get 2 checked bags for each person, and that's great. I totally recommend just checking everything that you can check so you don't have to carry it around with you. Even if you think, oh, I'll just have it in my stroller with me, it's no big deal. Just everything that you have on your person is just one more thing that you're mentally needing to keep track of or to carry when you're getting on and off the plane. So I went with the option where I need to pay for each checked bag that I had. So what I did, and this was kind of fun, is I just paid for 1 checked bag going to Utah. So I paid for 1 checked bag as I was flying. And then when I got to Utah, I got a second, I went and bought a cheap second luggage bag. Because whenever I go visit family, I love going shopping. I love going shopping with my family and love shopping for little girls' clothes. So I just packed light as I traveled there. And then I got a cheap luggage bag, and
look how cute this suitcase
went
is.
shopping, put my clothes in that
This is the
luggage
outside.
bag. And then when
Look at the inside.
I had 2 checked bags. Now, you decide which option works best for you. But my suggestion is just check everything. Just check everything so you don't need to carry it around with you. Now, let's go to the getting around the airport. So my next tip is getting around the airport. When I would fly just with me and my 1 baby, I would have just like a little pack that you could put the baby in. That way my hands were totally free. But traveling with 3 kids, 4 and under, I wanted them in a stroller. So I brought the stroller that I just use for all my walks around the neighborhood. So my kids were familiar with the stroller that we had. And it's actually a double jogging stroller, but I fit 3 kids in it. So the way I fit them in is I have my 1-year-old and my 2-year-old sitting in the actual seats buckled up. And then my 4-year-old will actually sit where their feet goes, if that makes sense. So it's a bigger stroller. So, and because they're short like me, their feet don't go all the way down to the feet rest area. So that's where my 4-year-old can sit. So that worked out perfect for us. They're used to sitting like that because we go and walk around the neighborhood that way. And I know exactly how my stroller moves. I had a Bob double stroller, and it's fantastic because I can maneuver that thing with just 1 hand. So some strollers are big and bulky and you need both hands to get it to turn. My Bob stroller, like I literally can just turn my wrist and my stroller turns with me. So I knew I wanted that stroller to come with me on the flight. Everything was going great. I had the kids in the stroller. We got through security just fine. We'll get back to security in just a minute. Went through security just fine, but then, and we got our first flight, I was able to check the stroller at the gate, no problem. That means you can take the kids in the stroller with you up to the gate where you show them your tickets, and then you get on the airplane, and it worked out great. We had a layover though. And in that layover, when I got to the ticket counter to board the plane, the stewardess said that my stroller was too heavy to be checked at the gate, and I would need to go take it all the way back to where you check your luggage, like at the very beginning part of the airport. I would need to go back there and check my stroller. And because it was too heavy. And at this point, I am like, I'm already just like trying to keep my cool, keep it together. I've already been on 1 2-hour flight with the kids, and we made it through that. And I made it through this new airport, even though the elevators weren't working. And so I couldn't take the SkyTrain. So I had to book it around the airport. Anyways, a few different things happened, trying to keep my cool. And I get to the gate and she tells me I can't get on because my stroller is too heavy. And I guess the reason for it is if a stroller is too heavy, it's tough for the flight attendant people, I don't know their exact titles, to bring the stroller up the stairs to the airplane once we land. And this poor lady, she was carrying a big stroller up one time. It fell and it really hurt her foot. And so she was adamant that, like, to help prevent injuries, I needed to have a lighter stroller, which I can understand. I can understand and I can sympathize with the foot pain because it affects your job. From here on out, once you get an injury, it is tough to be working in a manual labor type of a job. I get that. I was emotionally spent though at that point, and the thought of going back to check my stroller and then come back again was just too much. So I'm fighting back tears. I was so embarrassed. I was like literally at the point of tears, and what I did is I gave her the mom look, and I'm like, I have 3 babies that I have packed into this 2-seater stroller, and it's just me traveling right now. We're about to board the plane. What are you gonna make me do with this stroller? And she let me check it anyways. So afterwards, I went and I looked up, how light does your stroller need to be to check it at the gate? And here's the information that I have for you. So hopefully your experience will be smoother than mine. Some airlines say that you need to have a stroller that's less than 20 pounds. So that's what one source says for the weight of your stroller. A friend of mine, we were chatting this morning, she's flying soon with her 2 kids, and she looked up and found that Southwest does not have any stroller weight requirements. So take that how you will. I was still able to get my stroller gate checked, but both in my, what's it called? You fly and then you have a layover. Okay. Both my layover getting to Utah, I stopped in Dallas, and then my layover getting back to Missouri, and my layover was in Phoenix. Both of those times, but only at the layover point, they said that my stroller was too heavy to be checked at the gate. But both times they let me do it anyways. So maybe just take that for food for thought, weigh your stroller beforehand, or fly with an airline where they don't care about the weight requirements of the stroller. But definitely have a stroller that you feel like you can maneuver easily. Because if you are traveling by yourself with your kids, you pretty much want to be able to do everything with one hand. Because when you or your kids need to go to the bathroom, yes, they have those great family bathroom stalls, but I did not want to leave my stroller outside the bathroom. So I very awkwardly go up to the bathroom door, turn around, open the bathroom door with one hand, push it open, kick it open with my foot, back up, try and bring my stroller back in. My stroller just barely fit into the bathroom. So essentially, whatever you're doing, just practice as if you're doing it with one hand. And if your stroller is really clunky and hard to maneuver, then maybe borrow a different one from a friend. Or just know you're gonna have to get creative of how you try and help take care of your kids, plus doors with your stroller. It's not super conducive for strollers. Okay, so we've talked about wearing matching clothes, we've talked about luggage, we've talked about strollers. Another question I had was how to get through the security points. I forget what it's called. Anyways, you get up there, everyone's in a line, you put your stuff on the conveyor belt, it goes through, and then you need to walk through this little gate area to make sure that you're cleared to fly. So with kids, they do not need to take off their shoes, which is fantastic. Ah, sorry, I just spit everywhere. So essentially the way it worked for me is I just held my kids' hands, we walked up to the little gate area, a super nice attendant was on the other side, the kids would walk through, and then I would walk through behind them. Now I did need to take off my shoes. It's something small, but just know that you will be taking off your shoes. So wear shoes that you feel like you can get them on and off comfortably. I still chose to wear tennis shoes. I just tied them loose so I could just slip my foot back into them. Maybe you choose to wear flip-flops. I like tennis shoes because I felt like I could walk or run around the airport if I needed to. And my feet were also gonna stay warm because sometimes airports can be cold. But maybe you're like, I'm gonna wear socks and I'm gonna wear flip-flops. And that works totally fine for you. I just feel like for me, just the more I knew beforehand, the more I could decide what was going to work best for me and my kids. Isn't this crazy, all the thought processes that goes into this? Like, I hope this isn't stressing you out. I hope this is kind of bringing you some peace to have a few different ideas and tips. But take that as you will. Okay, finally, getting on the plane. So once we were on the plane, you kind of just need to just take a big deep breath and know your kids are gonna be kids. You might have a short flight, you might have a long flight, but your kids are not going to sit down perfectly the entire flight. Maybe they will, but just be emotionally prepared that your kids are still gonna be kids on the flight, and that's totally okay. People around you are, for the most part, very nice, and they were once kids too. So, and honestly, sometimes seeing someone's kids be playful or moving around the seat just kind of gives people a reason to laugh or to make conversation with you. Now, there might be some people that, of course, like you don't want your kids like trying to climb on the seat in front of you. My kids were trying to do that. The person was super patient. But just know your kids are gonna be kids. But here are a few different things you could have on hand to help the flight be smoother for the kids. First off is have some things they can play with.
Gorilla.
And we had things like our iPad, we had a couple of little magnetic blocks. My kids love magnetic blocks, and so I brought just a handful of them that they can still build with things with. Bring some coloring books and a few crayons, maybe a doll, whatever it is that your kids like to play with when it's their quiet time at home. Bring those type of toys. And if you don't know what those are, then practice. Practice having a half an hour or an hour of just quiet time at home. And you can bring out different coloring books or whatever toys you think might entertain them. And that way you can see beforehand what things your kids more easily gravitate to. Now, things I would recommend that you do not bring on the plane when it comes to toys is do not bring things that roll. Do not bring a bouncy ball. Do not, don't bring anything that's circular like that, because if you have little ones like I do, one of their favorite things to do, especially my 1-year-old, is to look at something and then to throw it. So don't give them anything you don't want thrown. And if it's a circular thing, it's gonna just roll. So that's my little tip there. So we had some toys and coloring things that they could play with. We also had the iPad. Now, lots of times on your flights, they have movies that you can just download and stream for free. You don't have to prep anything on your iPad and have it downloaded. But as a practice round, if you want to, before you fly, put your iPad into airplane mode and see what things you can still do. Can you download movies and still watch them? Are there different apps that you can be able to play with in airplane mode? My kids had some of their favorite apps, but in airplane mode, only certain things would work on them. So you might just want to kind of have a little test run beforehand of what things your iPad can and can't do on the flight. And then the third thing is bring some snacks. Like, to me, I'm like, just give them the snacks, let them watch the movie, let them play with the toys, just to try and keep them entertained and to try and keep them sitting in their seats. But another just mindset tip for the parents that are traveling with the little ones is, again, just take a deep breath and know that your kids are going to be kids, and that's totally okay. And you can trust the people around you. Most people are not thinking horrible, mean things about you and your children that are being louder. On one of my flights, my daughter was actually she wasn't sitting right next to me. So my 4-year-old was actually sitting behind me, and she happened to be sitting in between two grandmas. And I know that you can have things like flights changed around beforehand, where if you're like, oh, we're not sitting together, can we get moved to the same spot? But with my daughter sitting right behind me and knowing her personality, I knew that she'd be fine, still being close to me. But I had to trust the people on either side of her also. And it was the sweetest thing. Like, it was the sweetest thing being able to look back and see her conversing with these two little grandma age ladies on either side of her. And it was just so sweet. And they were so kind. And yeah, it all works out. So trust people around you. Most people are kind. Most people love little kids. Yes, it's tough if your baby is just crying and having a hard time that way on the flight, but that happens to anyone, so that's totally okay. And a final tip for your baby on the plane is make sure that you have multiple binkies, because even though I had a binky that had a cute little connector to my baby's outfit, all she did was she just ripped it off and she threw it. So binkies are gonna get thrown a lot while you're traveling, and especially on takeoffs and landings, it's super nice to give your baby a binky to try and help their ears pop with the pressure changes, or to give your kids some snacks for the same reason, to help just keep their jaw moving for the different pressure changes. So those are some tips that I have for flying with your little ones on the plane. Now, if there's any other questions that you have, you can put in the comments and I will try and get around to answering the questions here. I guess the last thought that I have is, like, just take the flight. Just take the flight. It's going to seem crazy. It's going to be like, how in the world am I going to do this? But just take the flight. Like, your kids are awesome, and you can survive the half-a-day trip or whatever it is to get to where you need to go. There was a lady, as I was getting off one of the flights, she stopped me and she's like, thank you so much. She's like, I was just eavesdropping in on your conversations with your kids on this flight. And she's like, you were so patient with them. This lady, she had twins at home. She's like, I have twin 4-year-olds. She's like, I've never flown with them yet. She's like, but I think I can do it now. And that made me so happy, because, like, we want to do things with our kids. And yes, we can wait until they grow up, until they get older, and it might be easier to fly with them. But there's also opportunities and situations that come up where we want to take the flight now. We want to be there for when the baby is born. We want to be there for the funeral, or to go see friends, or to just go on that vacation. Whatever it is, don't be too worried about flying with kids, because it's a short amount of time, and then you get to where you want to get to, and it all works out. So take the flight. If this has been helpful, this has been something I've been wanting to do for a while, And it's something that my husband has been really encouraging me with. And so I want to get on and just do weekly lifestyle videos of how to enjoy life with your little ones, how to feel you again, how to be able to bring some peace and some calm and to feel like you have some teamwork around you as you're going about your life in the phase that you're at right now. I have learned so much from the people that I have followed, and it's time to get back. So ask your questions, share your own experiences, and you're worth living for. So get out and go do it.